Well, it is straight up noon, which means it's time to begin another monthly session of our Neighboring 101 class. As other people join us, I'll admit them and I'll also give them an opportunity to take this poll that we have up before we review that. So welcome, my name's David Burton. I'm a community development specialist with University of Missouri Extension, headquartered in Springfield, Missouri. And so thank you for joining us live today. We have about 330 people that are registered for this class, and some choose to watch the video link afterwards. But joining live is really the best way to interact with everyone and network through chat or through conversations, and to have a chance to be able to ask questions of the group or the speakers. So I really appreciate those who have chosen to join us live today. I think that's important. Have a few announcements to make, and then kind of our regular lineup of items that we do, and including a Q&A and share time at the end of the session today. And then, of course, our guest speaker, Chet from Ohio. We'll get right to him in a moment. I wanted to make you aware of some bonus events, I guess I would call them. We have several things coming up with our local library district over this next week, leading up to Mr. Rogers' birthday, which is March 20th. And you may sometimes see that referred to as Won't You Be My Neighbor Day, is Mr. Rogers' birthday on March 20th. But we have a couple of speakers that we have lined up at the Greene County Library. Melanie Warnock, the author of Where You Belong. It's a great book, an easy read, but packed full of great information and examples. She's going to be one of our guest speakers. Then I'm doing sort of an overview class on neighboring, and you can register for those at the link that I've put in the comments section, which is thelibrary.org/programs. And then we are also doing a 100 Acts of Kindness challenge. And we have a list of ideas of what constitute acts of kindness, and then a mechanism for people to report acts of kindness, either that they have done or that they have seen or benefited from. And our goal is to get at least 100 of those acts documented, and then we're going to share those out on March 20th, Mr. Rogers' birthday. So hopefully you can register for that. For some of those classes, they're in the evening on the 13th and the 16th, I believe, are the two dates. No, I think it must be the 16th and the 18th. I'm wrong. 16th and the 18th. So love to have you in some of those classes. And then also just a quick note, each month I like to try and give a little advice from my neighborhood, things that I have learned along the way. And I have to tell you that one of the top excuses I'm hearing from people about why they don't neighbor or they don't know their neighbors better is that their lives are too busy. I hear that often said, I do not have time for my neighbors. In other words, people have no margin in their lives. And without margin, we can't have that spontaneity that it takes to be available to our neighbors, to be available for conversations and interaction. And so it's hard to plan. It'd be really impossible to plan these special events if you have no margin, much less special conversations. So having that margin really creates buffers, and it gives you room to breathe and freedom to act and some time to adapt to things that come up. Well, relationships also happen in those margins. And when there's no margin, it's impossible to welcome others into our lives. So here's 3 basic tips I'd give on creating margin in your life. 1, think of alignment, not addition. In other words, don't try to add activities to your schedule, but look at ways to sort of align your daily rhythms with the rhythms of life that goes on around you. And so instead of creating a special event, maybe look for opportunities to walk the dog with a neighbor, or to interact with a neighbor at the mailbox, just your normal rhythms of life. Try that first, as a way to use margin that you do have to interact with neighbors instead of creating a special event, which seems to overwhelm a lot of people, that idea. And then be prepared to prune some activity from your branches. If you're really serious about creating margin and having more time in your life, then there are probably some good things in your life that need to be cut out to allow time for what's best. And in this case, we'd be talking about neighboring being one of those best options. And then thirdly, we really do have to set priorities. There's actually a book, Crazy Busy by Kevin DeYoung, and he makes the argument that our busy lives are rooted in pride and the fact that we're overcommitted because we love to be asked to do things. And as a result, we never say no, and then we get overcommitted and we become crazy busy, and then we have no margin for our neighbors. I found that to be the case in my own life. And if neighboring is important to you, you have to create some margin in your life so you have time to rub shoulders with your neighbors. So that's this month's advice for my neighborhood. Let's take a look at our poll here. And for those who have answered that, so far in 2021, how many books on the topic related to neighboring have you read? Well, a couple of you, let's see, 2 to 3 for one person, 1 to 2 for two. Majority have not read any books on that topic. Let me just encourage you to do so. There's a lot of great books in the last 10 years, and especially in the last 5, on these topics of neighboring and loving where you live. I have a list of books. If you're interested in a list of possible ones to pick from, I'd be glad to share that. Or you can take our neighboring poll online, I'll list, and that's included in that packet is our list of neighboring books. Really encourage you to read some on the topic. I think you'll be encouraged when you do. So I'll share that survey link here in just a little bit about how you can get the list of resources, list of books. Well, that is enough from me here this morning. I'm glad that we have the opportunity to have our first guest speaker from within the class, actually. Chet joined in to Neighboring 101 at the very beginning. And if nothing else, you'll probably pick up on his enthusiasm for this topic. He has great enthusiasm, has done some really wonderful things to learn more about it and to implement it himself. And that's why I asked him to kind of share with the group today what he's doing to neighbor in Ohio and to encourage others. So, Chet, I will turn it over to you, my friend.
Thank you so much, David. David, in case you haven't figured this out yet, I'm going for teacher's pet for the class. So I probably email you more than I should. If there were office hours, I'd be knocking on your door in person. I actually saw the advertisement for this class via a Facebook sponsored post. I don't know if anybody else saw the same Facebook sponsored post, but I think it was really it's meeting the moment and providing a product at a time that is where certainly there's a high demand for social connection, and so many folks working remotely or maybe out of work. The opportunity to get to know our neighbors is incredible, and I greatly appreciate you providing this space, this platform. So I'm over here in Columbus, Ohio. Can everybody hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up. I'm in transit, so I'm being safe with my mask. Let me share my screen here, and we'll dive in. Does that look full screen to everybody? Looks good. Okay. Well, this presentation is about being a good neighbor. Some learnings that I've experienced over the last few years. What neighboring in action looks like, and what some of those digital tools, physical tools can help you be successful. As a little background, I'm the president of our neighborhood foundation. I'm on the board of directors for our neighborhood civic association. I lead our neighborhood block watch, and I'll get into that a little more, and how that has being involved on that community-wide level has really helped direct my efforts down to a more smaller level. But this is an outline of where we're going to go on the talk today. Again, share a little more background, the problems I've seen, some of the steps I've taken as I've dove in, the research findings, learning some of the tools that I've used, what some of those actions are, what that process looks like, and suggesting some next steps. So let's see, let's rewind the clock. 10 years ago, I was dumped by a girlfriend and fired from a job, both firsts for me. And that caused me to reflect. I was at probably the low point of my life, and those firsts led to another firsts, and it led me to actually write my goals down. So in November of 2011, I wrote down 13 things that I was gonna do over the next 13 months. They were gonna set me up to make 2013 the best year of my life. Anybody have any guesses what my lucky number is? 13. I saw you. Who is that? I saw somebody mouth it. Yeah, 13 was my lucky number. Well, I reached out to our neighborhood civic association and shared my interest, and they ended up hiring me as their administrator. I began volunteering. I began coordinating initiatives, efforts with our block watch. I was invited to join our neighborhood foundation, which I'm now the president of. Whenever there was an event or an opportunity to volunteer or chip in, I showed up. But after a few years, I came to a realization. I asked myself, where was the community here? You know, when I go home, and when I went to these events, where were the people that lived near me at those events? And there seemed to be a big gap. And so it kind of highlighted that there is not really a product or service that is connecting people, you know, on a hyper local level. I want to ask yourself this quick question. When you think about building community, what is the first event or activity that comes to mind? Anybody feel free to throw it in the chat or raise your hand, belt it out. I can't read the chat, so David, you may have to help me out here. But if anybody said block party, then we're on the same page. That's what I always thought of when I thought about, you know, building community.
I'm seeing some people put in things like festivals, public meetings,
Yep.
church. I think some of us would probably say our answer to that might be different now than it was pre-COVID, perhaps.
Fair enough. I've been in enough meetings to know that nobody wants to go to more meetings, especially after work. And I think that's a huge challenge given the current structures that are set up for civic associations or block watch. Again, people want to get together, but I don't think they want to sit around a table and obey Robert's rules of order. Or not in my experience. It's like pulling teeth, getting people to volunteer to be a board member or to show up to a meeting. And community building is hard. We're very distracted. So many times people come home from work, they pull their car into the garage, they shut the garage door, they come inside, they turn on a TV, or they open their laptop, or or they're on their phones. I think I myself spend too much time looking at screens. So we reached that conclusion that a block party would be a good idea. But inevitably, that's a huge hurdle for people that don't know each other, for people that maybe have said hi, they've probably forgotten each other's names. You can see this permit needs to be in 30 days in advance. There's a $75 application fee. You have to get sign off from the police department. You have to secure barriers to make sure the road is closed off. And that's often be a blocker that prevents people from organizing this type of event. So where do you start? And I would recommend that people start small. That was inspired by a Columbus Foundation initiative called the Big Table, which is essentially a round table and an invitation for community members to come together and to talk about what your community does well and where the opportunities for improvement might be. As part of that package, they gave us this pledge card. And as involved as I had been, this is back in 2017. I realized that maybe an area where I could focus more of my efforts would be on my own block. So my pledge to create a strong connected community was to start by connecting my immediate neighbors on my block, the folks that I see coming and going every day, walking their dogs, bringing in their groceries. And I think that's the sweet spot to start to make a positive impact in your community. And so what we started to do, I called it Block Talk, and we started by organizing casual social meetups once a month. I live on a street called Wilbur, and we called it Wilbur Wednesdays. So the first Wednesday of the month, I had offered to host the first one. Another neighbor offered to host the second one, and over the next 2.5 years, up until COVID, every month we had a social mixer. We rotated houses. The hosts put out some light snacks. It wasn't dinner, so it didn't have to cost a lot. It was always BYOB. Whether you drink alcohol or not, you could bring it in a water bottle or a coffee mug. Nobody had to know. You could bring a 6-pack or a bottle of wine to share. We always had name tags. Our name tags had a few icebreakers on it, including your name, address, the year you moved to the block. And those initiatives led me to realize that there's an incredible demand and interest for people to get to know each other. Over 2.5 years, we probably had 24 hosts. And the hosts got to choose the month they wanted to do it. They got to choose the day and the time, whatever worked for their schedule. We put out flyers. And I realized as more people wanted to join, more people wanted to do this on their block. But we kept it focused just on the folks on our block, the folks that you live closest to. We would have anywhere between 10 and 25 people on any given month. And so that Block Talk initiative led me to realize, like how could you scale this? Like, what is the structure or format that could make a larger impact on a broader scale, just not on my block? So that has led me to work on a Good Neighbor project that I'm continuing to develop after going through a social enterprise accelerator program. I think the front door project, this example from David, and the filling out the names of this has 14 neighbors. I love the ambition there. The neighboring movement has an 8 front door project. to cover your, cover your 6 and your 9 o'clock and your 3 o'clock. I would probably need a 64 person sheet or a few sheets. But I think the point here is getting out and taking action. No step is too small, and there's a lot of great resources out there. It also led me to dive in and to see, like, how could I bring more tools and learnings to this neighboring movement. I got involved with a group called Sea Change. It's a social enterprise accelerator aimed at providing the framework to help take this idea with a social good, a community, making a positive community impact, and putting a sustainable business model around it, or for a nonprofit, for example. As I continued to do more research, I stumbled upon the neighboring movement, and two guys. You see in the upper right-hand corner there. That's Matt on the right with the guitar, Adam with the banjo. They have a pretty fun podcast called The Neighbor Next Door. They have really good interviews with folks. They come together with some practical tips and are sharing their journey as they continue to live out this work of neighboring. Who's heard of or who knows what ABCD means?
Yes, I'm sure we have a couple of people in the group today based on names that are familiar with ABCD, asset-based community development.
Nailed it. Asset-based community development, focusing on our neighbors' gifts, their talents, their teachables. I heard it referred to as the head, the hands, and the heart. What can you teach people? What do you know? What knowledge can you share? What can you build? What can you create? Whether it's gardening, maybe you're into woodworking, and then what are your passions? Engaging people on that level, and that's as opposed to a needs-based approach that might be specifically focused just on and filling in the gap, whether it's housing or education or whatever, which are all important pieces. But this asset-based community development, I think, really inspires and motivates people by recognizing that every neighbor, every person has a value, every person has a gift, and through this neighboring work, I think there's an incredible opportunity to bring those out. I would argue that the neighbors are the most untapped, underutilized resource in any community. I think I've heard the founder of Zappos, when asked what their most valuable asset was, and I think many CEOs will tell you the same thing, is time and again they will say their people are their most valuable asset. And I think the same goes for community building. The same goes for neighboring. And as a community organizer, as a block captain, as a leader, I think that falls on us to engage those people, to connect those resources. And ABCD is a really powerful structure and framework to go about that. Has anybody heard of? I'm sure David has, but ACE in Edmonton, the Abundant Communities Initiative up there in Canada. They've won awards. They've been recognized for their incredible work. They have grown to over 100 neighborhoods over the last, I think, 8 or 9 years. They're almost halfway to activating and engaging some 260 neighborhoods in Edmonton. Howard up there is an incredible resource. And then I enrolled in this class, and David has opened my eyes to new websites, to new books. So I just encourage people to continue to dive in and provide that solid framework and foundation to continue to grow your neighboring work. Let's see here. And part of that is reading books. Timely question there, timely poll at the front of the class, David. The Art of Neighboring was the first book that I picked up and read. I was able to follow up and actually had a one-on-one call with the author, Dave Runyon there. His work in Denver is inspiring. I can't tell you how many countless times I was reading through this book and I'm like, oh my goodness, yes. Like it put words to feelings and actions and observations that I've experienced on my block. Abundant Communities is another great one by John McKnight and Peter Block, some of the pioneers of the asset-based community development movement. David also mentioned the Melody Warnock's book, This Is Where You Belong. I'm almost finished with that. Her Love Where You Live experiments are really inspiring and really speak to the research and data that's in and around place attachment. What makes people really appreciate their community, their neighborhood, loving where they live. And then Strong Towns, that's my next book. So encourage everyone to pick up a book and learn from others that have been there before. There's some great studies. One that I stumbled upon from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government asked the question: if you could have 10% more either police officers or 10% more neighbors that knew each other's names, which one do you think would have a more positive impact on the safety and health of the community? Any guesses? The names. The names are the more powerful tool of change. Knowing someone's name is really a gateway to starting a relationship that can last for years. Robert Putnam is another social scientist that has a lot of great research out there. He's wrote a couple books that are on my list. But just know that the work you're doing, the work we're all pursuing, it's backed up. It's backed up by research. It's backed up by data. And those can be powerful tools when we're going to cities or foundations looking for grant money or looking for in-kind support. So know that the facts are on your side. I mentioned earlier names. I cannot reinforce that enough. If anybody's read the old How to Win Friends and Influence People, book by Dale Carnegie, he certainly reinforces that fact. If you've ever been to a networking event and you've seen these, hello, my name is, it's really an invitation to come into a relationship. Many folks, if you're not experienced or practiced at it, can easily forget names. It's something that's really quick. It's exchanged at the beginning of a conversation or interaction, and you move right on to the next thing, and it's really easy to forget. So when you're doing events and meetups, you can get a pack of 100 name tags at a school supply store for $3. And I would suggest you have that on hand. Again, it's many people will be reluctant to engage somebody if they've met them before and they've forgotten their name. But again, if you have that little name tag, that reduces that barrier. What we've done, we've gone to Staples. We have some little reusable name tag inserts. So when we have somebody fill out their name tag, again, with their address, with their hometown, with the year they moved to the block, these are all icebreakers and invite people to get to know each other and start that conversation. And again, we reuse them. We file them alphabetically by first name, almost like a recipe book that your grandma had in her cupboard. And we reuse them, so you don't have to fill it out every time. You don't have to, oh, I forgot mine at home. You keep that with the block organizer. David, I think, has shared this Pew Research study, and I think it really speaks to the opportunities as we think about how people connect, how people build community, how they interact with their neighbors. And again, getting that name. Oftentimes, when we have a new neighbor, I'll drop off some cookies. I'll write my name and number, welcome to the block. I've done that 3 times this year, and all 3 times I've received a text back within a few hours with their full name, with their number, and an appreciation of just how much that means to somebody that is brand new to the block, that doesn't know anybody. It really makes a world of difference.
We're gonna have a little chance next month to talk more about that Pew Research study, actually, as a group. And then I was going to share that Lydia in chat mentioned that something we've done in the past is to print a business card with our names, everyone in the family picture, address, phone number, to give to neighbors. So sadly, I've not used it recently. I guess she probably means due to COVID, perhaps. But that's kind of a neat idea to actually have kind of a family business card to share. Clever.
Lydia, I love that idea. I would love to see what that looks like. But you're right, Vista Print or any local printer will be able to print off 100 cards for, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks. And that'll pay itself many times over in dividends with the doors that opens up, with the relationships that allows you to foster. So good call there. Diving into some of the tools and resources that I've used. Google Drive is an incredible collaboration engine. We use Google Sheets, which is similar to like an Excel spreadsheet, to create a phone directory that we share with neighbors. It's a great place to create flyers and a template that you can easily swap out the address for the hosts, for who's hosting the next meetup. Google Maps, you can see on the bottom there, this is an example of how we use Google Maps to divide our much larger neighborhood into much more smaller, more manageable, I call them quads. So this was for a lighting survey that we did in the fall, where we asked for volunteers, 1 volunteer per quad. We probably filled those up within 2 days, 2 to 3 days. We had a volunteer from every quad. We had them go out and fill out a Google form, which is a really simple form that said what the address was, if there's any numbers on the pole, was it on a private property, was it on public property? And last fall, we had over 100 lights in our neighborhood that we identified that were burnt out or needed replacement. And so heading into this winter, that light brought more safety to our residents as they're getting their exercise, as they're walking the dog, as they're taking the trash out. But this same format could be used to do a neighborhood-wide drive for potholes in the spring. They can be used for a pick up the litter campaign, also in the spring after the snow melts. It can be used for a rake leafing initiative in the fall. I think David has mentioned how beautification and having a street in a neighborhood that looks nice and is visually appealing, that makes people feel more connected. They take more pride in where they live. And again, this Google has a whole slew of tools to help you do that. In fact, this presentation is on a Google slide deck, so similar to a PowerPoint presentation. And then in your upper right-hand corner, we have our auditor's site. As I've thought more about organizing on a hyper-local level, whether it's a street level or an entire block, there's tools that you can select geographically those specific properties, and you can export that to a CSV file, put that into an Excel doc or a Google sheet. You can modify and work with the data, but that can become an easy foundation for a neighbor directory. This is public information already out there based on the property owner's information. It can quickly and more easily tell you, which are the homeowners, which properties are the rentals. I myself am a renter. I lived in the same place for about 9 years. I should have bought 9 years ago, but renters may get a bad rap for being transient. But those renters may also have a different schedule than you. You may go to bed at 9 or 10, and some of those renters may come home at 12 or 1 or 2, and they can provide that extra, safety, security to look out for you and your home later at night. So I believe in radical inclusivity, so that everybody is welcome, everybody is wanted, everybody has something to give and value to share. Moving on to some of the physical tools, to keep all this organized, I've created a 3-ring binder. You can see in the upper left-hand corner there, that has my directory, my neighborhood directory. That has my maps. It has my flyers. It has space to hold the name tags, to hold pens. I actually put that in like a shoulder strap briefcase that also has my chalk. So whenever we have a casual social meetup, we always chalk the sidewalks with some welcoming wordage, some language. Whenever we did a block party, we created yard signs as well. That really brought the excitement up. People, it's a really easy format that we can even adjust the dates with some stickers for the next year. In the lower left-hand corner, you'll see a magnetic clip. Officially, for the U.S. Postal Service, you're not allowed to put, private flyers, for example, in someone else's mailbox. That's frowned upon and not legal. So you could take a magnetic clip like this you could put your block names on it. You could put your neighborhood's name on it. It's a really great opportunity to brand either your street or your neighborhood. You could get a couple hundred of these pretty affordably on a per item basis. That can serve as not only receiving the flyer outside when you drop it off, but people can, you could give them a couple, they could keep that flyer then on their fridge. And it's just a good reminder to keep neighboring and that the whatever initiative or impact you're looking for top of mind with with your neighbors. I think one of the most successful initiatives we've done though is coordinating events. When I proposed doing a casual social monthly meetup, I had no idea if anybody was going to say yes, if anybody was going to be interested, if anybody was going to show up. But I made the ask. I said, well, hey, if I host one of these, would you be interested? And would you be interested in hosting one as well? And the overwhelming response was yes. The picture on the right, we've done a white elephant gift exchange over the holidays. That's led to a lot of laughs. You've got gifts that have been passed around. Some real surprises. The randomness is part of the fun there. You can see our block party in the lower left-hand corner. But there's so many opportunities to celebrate. There's holidays, there's seasonal, there's events, opportunities to make your own street and neighborhood more beautiful. Even personal milestones, graduations from high school, 50th anniversaries, somebody that got a new job or got a promotion, whatever is going on in your world. When you open the door and invite neighbors to be a part of that, I've just been blown away at the sense of community and connection that has developed as a result. So this is kind of my outline framework, and I'll ask if anybody recognizes the scene there on the right. This is an old school movie, a throwback.
I'm gonna let someone else guess because I actually know two people that are in that line with their car lights on.
Oh my goodness! Would you? How about if I? Was it Iowa? Was that the state?
Yes,
Dude?
Yes, it's in Iowa.
Any guesses? Any guesses? Looks like a baseball field. Out in the middle of nowhere.
Field of Dreams.
Field of
Yeah.
Dreams. Nailed it. I put that out there just to illustrate the point. If you build it, people will come. I want to encourage everyone. You know, you're here for a reason. You see the value and the opportunity in this work. If you have a dream and if you believe it, invite others to join you. I know that flying solo will only get you so far. There's the old adage: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so, the more people that you can bring in and invite to be part of this work, the stronger and more sustainable your efforts are going to be to grow those connections. Your work, your individual efforts are going to inspire others to take up the torch, and again find those opportunities to celebrate, whether it's good weather, a holiday, a win for your local sports team, whatever it might be. Celebrate together. I know this is pretty high level, so I want to give you some more actionable items that are, I'm sure, probably on David's 100 tips list, but they're often simple. They don't have to cost money, but they go very far. I've never baked cookies before this year, and I challenged myself. I got a tub of pre-made cookie dough from the grocery store. As long as you don't burn the cookies, I think your neighbors are going to be happy. But just the little things: say hello, introduce yourself, pick up trash around the block. I've seen so many. There's two older women that I've seen consistently do it over the years, and finally inspired me to go to Lowe's, and I got a 5-gallon bucket and a trash picker, and that's doing that myself has instilled more pride in me. I'm certain other people have seen that as well. Just going for a walk around the block, I've always seen people with pets that have taken dogs for a walk, and I never had a pet of my own until my partner recently moved in. But just walking around the block gives you an opportunity, so many more opportunities to engage with people. And when you do see them out, be friendly, be curious. Don't be afraid to ask for support. That is really an invitation to get to know somebody. We're imperfect beings, and social creatures. So any opportunity you have to send a thank you, this is a thank you that we developed to share with our neighbors. Take some walks, put some chalk out on the sidewalk, turn your lights on overnight. All very easy, actionable items that can make a huge difference. And then I want to encourage people to continue to dive in. The neighboring movement has a faith-based initiative called the Good Neighbor Experiment. Encourage people to listen to that podcast. There's an online forum, ABCD in Action, where I found other folks that are in this work asking similar questions. That Abundant Communities of Edmonton, they have an online class. Anybody can sign up for that. Anybody can take it. It's free. I think it's about an hour, maybe hour and a half. You'll learn a lot. And there's another organization in Canada, the Tamarack Institute. More courses, videos, great resources there. So with that, I'll finish up and just invite everybody to stay connected. I'm on Instagram. Feel free to send me an email. David had set up this neighboring 101 group on Facebook, which I think would be a great forum to discuss what we've learned here, how we're applying it in our own communities. And with that, thanks for your time. Any questions? Otherwise, I'll throw it back to David.
Please, if you had questions, please open up your microphone and ask. Give you just a few moments. Chet, I appreciate your presentation. I loved your use of the word hyper-local. You said that a couple of times when you were talking about neighborhoods. Love that whole idea. And the great advice of starting small. We see that in community events and festivals as well, where people get together around an idea and they get to brainstorming, and then it becomes this huge undertaking. And by the time they pull it off the first time, they're worn out. And then if they don't have anyone show up, they're not only worn out, they're also mad. And so it's great advice to start small, celebrate the small, and that way you can kind of throw things at the wall and see what sticks too and what works, and then build on that. And you're suggesting that in neighborhoods is brilliant, right on target. Loved your block talk ideas as well. I did notice in the chat, a couple of ladies had a question here, wondering your thoughts. It says, I'm wondering if organizing and engagement within different socioeconomic neighborhoods varies within this framework. Have you
it certainly
conversation? Want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, it certainly could. I recognize I'm in a middle to upper class neighborhood. Has been gentrifying over the last 20 to 30 years. So that will look different in different neighborhoods. I think the whereas we've had gatherings inside people's homes. Not every host will be comfortable with that, and we've had that on our block. Renters that maybe have a studio apartment or just a one bedroom. There's nothing saying you can't do it outside. You can't do it at a local park. I think there's plenty of spaces to come together, and I think there's plenty of businesses that would be willing to sponsor or provide food um, uh, under the guise of building community on this hyper local level. So I don't think budget should be an issue. Again, if you make the asks and present the opportunities here, nor should geography. There's plenty of outdoor spaces and many communities that would facilitate the coming together of neighbors.
One of the things that crossed my mind when that question was asked is a study that was done at the University of Missouri about 10 years ago. And that is included in this Engage Neighbor packet. I just put the link for the survey, and this same, if you're listening to the recording and you're feeling cheated because you can't see the chat, the link to this same survey is always in the follow-up emails and the reminder emails that go out. But that research study 10 years ago, they began with the premise that there was a difference between neighborhoods and that the more affluent neighborhoods were where people were more engaged and knew each other and more connected. That was their thesis. And they finished the research with several different neighborhoods and concluded that the opposite was true, actually. And they had some interesting theories on why they thought that was the case, but they really found the lower income neighborhoods were where people were more engaged as neighbors and more interested in doing things to improve their actual neighborhood. So I thought that was an interesting study that kind of goes to the question that was asked. Here in Greene County, we've just launched a pilot project. So I'll share about this just a little bit. This is one of those questions that we hope to discover some answers to as we go along. The pilot project launched on March 1st. We have 8 very different neighborhoods that we're piloting with. The largest neighborhood has 90 homes. Most of these are in the 50 to 70 home range in terms of neighborhoods. So these are tight collections, but they range widely in socioeconomic range. And one of them, in fact, one of the neighborhoods is just beginning to be built. We're working with the developer and we're going to get engaged neighbor types of things in front of people as they move into their new home in this new neighborhood. So we're going to measure that against some of these older, more established neighborhoods. And we're really looking to see if we can, through activities and engagement, move the needle about how people feel about their neighborhood in terms of safety, friendliness, and cleanliness, because those seem to be the 3 criteria that in surveys nationally, people say are the most important, or how they gauge the success of their neighborhood. Those 3 always seem to float to the top. And we learned that from the Neighbor Link organization in Indiana as well, when we had them on a couple of months ago. And so in that pilot project, every home is going to be getting a quarterly newsletter focused on neighboring and what's going on in their neighborhoods. We're working with connectors or a contact in each neighborhood to create a neighborhood directory. And that directory will include people's sort of interests and hobbies with the goal of getting people to connect around common interest. That is an element of asset-based community development, getting people to connect around shared interest. And then we're also going to fund some sort of event, picnic, work day, something like that in each one of these neighborhoods as the local connectors determine what works best for them. And I think from that pilot project, the goal is that we'll learn some things to do and some things maybe not to do. I can tell you from the first mailing that has gone out to these nearly 575 homes, I think, total. We include in that on the front page a link to a survey that they can select their neighborhood and kind of to kick off creating directories and asking people to input their information. We have received 0 responses to that survey in 2 weeks. Of course, this is the first newsletter they've gotten, so it's kind of out of the blue. The only exception to that is in a neighborhood where the connector that I'm working with has been more active, and she has knocked on doors and asked her neighbors to fill the survey out. And so we have 20 responses to the survey in her neighborhood, and in all the other neighborhoods, 0. So that certainly speaks to the importance of a local connection, someone driving that locally. I'm sure there'll be other lessons learned as well. Just to highlight what's coming up, and then we can stay on if there's other questions and answers that people would like to visit about. Our next session is on April 15th, and we're going to be learning about neighboring in apartment complexes. And we're also going to be taking a further dive look into that Pew Research study on neighboring and asking participants to kind of chat through that and help dissect some of those findings a little bit. And then, of course, we'll be talking about other aspects of neighboring. And then in May, our guest speaker will be talking about how to begin and maintain a tool library. Sometimes they're called tool sheds. These can work for whole neighborhoods or communities. And the individual that runs the only tool library in the state of Missouri will be our guest for that one. And then if any other class members have experience with tool libraries, I'd like to include them in sort of the panel discussion about how those can be used to connect neighbors and to improve your neighborhood as well. So any questions, question, answer, or discussion?
I'll just follow up that our neighboring initiative would not have worked had the success had we not gone out and knocked on doors. That having that personal connection, that face-to-face, that introduction, saying, "Hey, I live down the street," or "I live around the corner." Somebody that is regularly outside walking on the block. It makes a difference. So I'm not surprised to hear that feedback from your pilot projects, dude.
Yeah. Anyone else? Well, if there is no other discussion, be watching your email, of course. I'll send out the follow-up to this class and the link to this and the previous classes. And Chet, we sure appreciate the time you invested in putting together a presentation. I think I've always heard before, if you hear a guest speaker and you can come away with one takeaway item, one thing that you've learned, then that was a successful presentation. And hopefully all of you came away with at least one item. I think I wrote down at least 5 things here that you made me think about differently, Chet. So great job. Thank you for that presentation. And we'll look forward to seeing you on April 15th.
Thanks so much for having me, David. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.